Jason, what is an entropy desert?
Unfortunately, Tim, we are now seeing what I like to call an entropy desert happening at large scale. So what is it?
Okay.
It is, you know this, we've talked about this before. Quite often it's IoT devices where a cryptographic credential of some kind, a private key, is created on the device, or it comes from an image. In other words, the same private key is put on millions of devices.
Yep, very common.
So it's either one or the other. It's either a very, very poor randomness
Right.
was part of the generation of the cryptographic material,
Right.
or there's no entropy at all. It might have been a very well-constructed secret with a lot of entropy, a lot of randomness involved in the process, but copied over millions of devices.
Or conceivably, sometimes there's just no credential at all. I think that would count too, right?
I would say that would have to count.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
So I think, Tim, the reason why we're trying to use this term, an entropy desert,
Okay.
is because there are now large chunks of our world where you think entropy exists, or
You figure it must.
it must,
I think it should, and therefore you figure it must, but it doesn't.
but it doesn't.
Right.
And when you actually look at it, like when the white hat guy takes it to black hat and exposes it to the world, you go, wow, tens of millions of devices that were produced over many years actually have the same private key, or private keys that were generated on device. And some well-meaning engineer thought, when the complete boot sequence occurs, my kernel has enough oscillations, I can measure the amount of randomness happening. But in reality, the private key is generated maybe before the full boot sequence.
Okay.
We've seen that before.
Okay.
And those create entropy deserts.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm toying with that term, Tim, is because it's evocative of
It's a great term.
lack of
desert.
entropy.
I love it.
So let's talk about don't make any entropy deserts.
Yeah.
And I think right now we see entropy deserts at a planetary scale.
So you mentioned the IoT device one. Obviously, that's a big one. Is that the primary culprit?
I think it is. But in reality, poor entropy is all over the place. So, like right now, what I'm addressing here with you is like the true like Sahara deserts of entropy. We could probably in the future have whole podcasts on, well, what's the Sonoran desert, right? Where there's actual cactus.
So I know one bad practice that absolutely occurs is reuse of the same private key across multiple certificates.
That's straight up entropy desert.
I'd call that an entropy desert, wouldn't you?
100%.
Yeah, that occurs for sure.
And it occurs way too often.
Yeah.
Right? So I think what we need to do, Tim, and this is me fast forwarding to, this is probably multiple podcasts. Okay. But I got a couple notes that I'm going to read from is, I think we need to treat entropy just like we treat uptime.
Okay.
Think about this. We have people obsessed with uptime. You and I know those people.
Sure.
And security kind of goes to the wayside, right? All right, well, if the quality of your secret is literally the definition of the door lock, how you're doing authentication as an example, then I think what we need to do is, since the uptime guys really have their business together, I think we need to talk about if we want to stop creating entropy deserts, we need to make that the equivalent of a downtime. Like in conceptual thinking.
Got it.
We give so much weight to downtime.
So just like we measure uptime, we almost want to measure entropy availability.
Precisely. So therefore, coming right from my notes, when you're creating your products, need to design in entropy.
Yeah.
So remember, Tim, we had a podcast, 515, we're talking about governance aware MFA. So imagine if you designed your MFA with good entropy in mind. In other words, would you have ever come up with something that was super leaky, such as SMS based MFA? If you accounted for the amount of entropy leak, you never would use SMS. In other words, entropy literally defines why it should be deprecated.
Yeah.
Entropy leakage specifically in that case.
Right. Yeah. So entropy, if you account for entropy leakage, you almost have kind of I don't know if I want to say de facto entropy as a metric, as opposed to like theoretical entropy. And maybe that's the better way to think about it.
Yeah, you're getting into the pragmatic. This is very early on thinking, just in terms of so think about how you design uptime, right? You design a system with uptime in mind. You measure uptime, you alert on uptime, and you budget for certain amounts of downtime, perhaps for maintenance, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're designing an IoT device, right, why not do all that?
Yes.
But with entropy in mind. In other words, measuring it, alerting at moments where there's a low entropy period of time.
Right. And what's interesting about this, Jason, is you wouldn't design an IoT device, and this is why you're picking uptime as your example. You wouldn't design an IoT device that had terrible uptime gaps.
Right.
This device is no good. I can't connect to it.
Exactly.
This meter is supposed to be telling me things, but 1 hour a day, it's not telling me anything. This is a bad meter. I won't use it.
Exactly.
Right. You want to say the same thing about its entropy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we're really all about using analogies of things we really truly value and appreciate. Well, if our value system values uptime and downtime that greatly, then why shouldn't we take other things that have that level of criticality and do the same, consider it the same thing?
Yeah.
And I think that the criticality of entropy and entropy through time, even as systems are living, when the timing of when a private key is created within its entropy cycle, who thinks like that? Nobody. Should you? Hell yeah. When do you have entropy uptime? Is the only time, sufficient amount of measured entropy is the only time you should do certain kinds of cryptographic functions. And I don't see anybody doing that. Nobody's even thinking about that as an idea. And so that's why I want to talk about this on this podcast. It's like, okay, what's the fundamental problem? Well, we have entropy deserts.
Yeah.
And those entropy deserts are because we don't think of entropy uptime.
We absolutely have entropy deserts. And we absolutely don't think of entropy uptime. And right there, just putting some vocabulary on it has utility, I think.
I think if we leave it right there for today, that's a lot to chew on, isn't it?
It is. All right. Well, let's chew.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Jay.